You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. I'm coming to you on April 13th. It is Sunday evening at this point. Apologies for the delay and appreciate your patience. Waiting on this little series recap episode. I am still here in Arkadelphia, but I have been around the block since the last one. Been driving all over the state of Louisiana, state of Arkansas, taking my girl Hillary, the first lady of the Baumbastic Podcast, all around the South. Visiting some family. Been a little bit of a chaotic weekend, but I did want to, of course, get in front of a microphone, get in front of a camera, and talk to you guys about this series. And what a series it was, man. The last time you guys heard from me, Arkansas was coming off of a 13-3 win on Friday night to start things off, feeling really good, looking like Arkansas is about to go in here and take over in Athens, as they've been doing all year long. Since then, the Arkansas Razorbacks have dropped 2 one-run games, I believe both by the same score of 7-6. The second one being on Sunday here today, 12 innings. Arkansas ends up suffering their first series loss of the year, suffering back-to-back losses, which I believe drops Arkansas to 12-3 in SEC play. Does that sound right to you guys? And so, look, a little bit disappointing. Certainly not what the Arkansas Razorback faithful wanted after this one. We're going to talk about Game 3 and a little bit of what happened. Also kind of talk about some things from Game 2 because I did not do a video for that game. So we're going to talk about it all. And, of course, we're going to continue to talk about all of these things on the Baumbastic Podcast because we cover the Arkansas Razorbacks. That's what we do. We talk about every aspect of this baseball team. But as you can tell by the show's title, we also really want to talk big picture about just how do you guys feel? You know, Arkansas suffers a series loss. If you've been listening to me for a while, I've been saying I kind of want Arkansas. Like, I did not want Arkansas to finish this season without losing a series. So we have that kind of narrative, that little cloud hanging over. I would assume in that situation, Arkansas would be the number 1 overall seed, which certainly we'll sign up for if we can take it. But we all agree there's some pressure that comes with that. So I'm not here to tell you, hey, I'm glad they lost. Actually, I didn't want Arkansas to win this series this weekend. Make no mistake. I much rather would have had to, watch the Arkansas Razorbacks win this series. Hell, I would have rather them go out there and sweep Georgia and Athens, which really they were only a few pitches away from doing. But big picture, I do want to kind of talk about how do we feel about this situation? Is this the type of loss that causes some panic? I've been on Twitter for just a little bit. I've been driving a lot, so I've been trying to stay off Twitter, but seen enough on Twitter to know that you guys are taking this a lot harder than I appear to be. And when I say you guys, really I'm referring to the people that tweet at me, and I assume some of you are angry, but I also understand there's a vast majority of you that are normal, rational Hog fans with a brain and, can watch some good baseball and appreciate it for what it is. So, like I said, we're going to talk about sort of how we feel and kind of give my thoughts on the series and what I think it means for Arkansas. Before we get started here, do want to remind you guys that we are brought to you by the ultimate Razorback shopping experience, Alumni Hall. You can check those guys out over at 3417 North College Avenue in Fayetteville or shop online, InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. The cream of the crop, the creme de la creme of Razorback merchandise. Never a bad time to go get restocked, go get reloaded on your gear. So you love to support the Hogs. Everybody likes to rep their school, rep their colors. Alumni Hall is the best place to go do that. Reminder, we will be there. The Inside Arkansas Live crew, me, John, and Curtis will be there Friday after Arkansas's, before Arkansas's second game of the series against A&M. That's going to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series with Easter on the horizon. So if you're in town for that series, or if you're in town for the football spring game, which will also be taking place on Saturday, come by and hang out with us at Alumni Hall on Friday. We'll be doing our Inside Arkansas live show there from noon to 1:30. Going to be a good time. Going to be doing some giveaways. Going to be handing out some gift cards, stuff like that. So you'll definitely want to come by, give us a fist bump, and get you some Razorback merch, man. Like I said, the number 1 Razorback shopping experience. You can check those guys out. Like I said, 3417 North College Avenue, or this website here, InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. And the promo code HOGSBY20 will give you 20% off your purchase. So again, before we get into this actual game and what all happened in this, because I really do think I don't think I'm breaking any news here. This was a really high-level series. You know how I come in after some of these midweek games, and I'm like, well, wasn't the greatest baseball, but, here's what happened. Hogs win or whatever. This is one where, for me covering the series, of course, like I said, I would have preferred Arkansas won, no doubt about that. But what gave me a lot of comfort and just kind of, I don't know if comfort's the right word, but what was exciting to me about watching this series is I knew Arkansas was facing some really good competition. Of course, in the lineup, we know Georgia The stats speak for themselves. One of the most prolific offenses in the country. We also know Wes Johnson knows what he's doing. He's got that pitching staff on an upward trajectory. Where do they rank among the best pitching staffs in the SEC or the best pitching staffs Arkansas will face? I don't know about that. I think they're still probably an average pitching team around about this time. But they had some guys step up for them in a big way. So I came away kind of feeling the same way I felt about Georgia, that they are a very legitimate title threat, title contender, a team that Arkansas could very well see down the road if it's, not an actual one-on-one matchup. You're going to see them in Hoover, or they're going to be making some noise there. Probably going to see them in Omaha. I think that's a very real possibility. Both of these teams have that type of feel for them. And after the series, I definitely came away pretty confirmed in that stance that these are two really good baseball teams. Obviously, Arkansas wins 13-3 in game one, lose the next two games by 1 run, which is disappointing. And I'm not here to tell you shouldn't be upset about the Arkansas Razorbacks losing a series. You should never be thrilled about losing. We all would much rather win, like I said. But I think we can all agree there's not really a ton of separation between either of these teams. You watch Arkansas play Missouri, and we can kind of know right then, hey, there's not much we can really take away from this, because Arkansas is much better than these guys. And that certainly wasn't the case here with this Georgia series. But I also did not come away from this weekend thinking, oh, man, Arkansas's got, a gap between them and, Georgia, or them and whoever you think the best team in the country is. I'm sure some people, and I know a couple on Twitter, have done the mental gymnastics or the math and said, Arkansas loses a series to Georgia. Georgia got swept last week by Texas. That means Arkansas sucks and Texas is good and we're toast. And I understand why you would come to that conclusion. But like I said, coming into the weekend, there really wasn't a ton of separation between Texas and Georgia. And I think that's going to be a familiar theme, by the way, because Arkansas is playing, next weekend they got A&M, who, by the way, on a little bit of an upward trajectory, won their last 5 SEC games. We'll see. That's going to be a little bit more dangerous series than the numbers may indicate. But again, when Arkansas goes on the road to play LSU, who, by the way, did not have a good weekend on the road, when they host Tennessee at home, when they host Texas at home, maybe not as much Florida, who's not had a great year so far, but although did get a sweep over Missouri this weekend, so good for them. That's going to be a consistent theme, is that there's really not a ton of separation. And as we all know, once you get into the postseason, once you get into Omaha and you get among these elite of the elite NCAA tournament type of teams, you're just not going to go out there and out-talent anybody. You're not just going to go out there and roll the balls out and dominate people. Arkansas is capable of dominating anyone. Hell, they dominated Georgia on Friday night, but that's not the expectation. That's not what you're going to see 3 times a weekend. And so I think regardless of what happened, and again, we'll talk about the results and what we think about it, but regardless, I think playing in these last 2 games in particular, even Friday night, by the way, which is a close competitive game up until the 8th or 9th inning, this kind of stuff is no doubt going to make both teams better. I think there's a lot that we can learn about this in terms of just dissecting this Razorback team and finding out where they're at and who we trust. And, you don't really know until you get out there and go to war with some of these guys. And so I think we got some positive developments from that standpoint. But again, I really also just think it kind of brings your team closer together, being on the road, being in these battles, being in the foxhole like that, being in these high pressure situations. Like I said, as a coach, as Dave Van Horn, you're sitting there and you're starting to figure out which of these guys are starting to flinch when games get close. Which of these guys starts stepping up and making huge plays when games get close? And I got to be honest with you. I mean, I know Arkansas loses in the 12th inning and had some opportunities there to take this game, and I know we're going to be disappointed. And hell, Arkansas had a runner on second, nobody out on Saturday's game, didn't get that run in. I understand, being disappointed by that. But I think you would probably agree that there wasn't a whole lot of flinching going on either side. I didn't think Georgia was getting scared in these situations either. I thought Arkansas had a lot of dudes really step up and make some big plays. And so big picture, what do we take away from this weekend? Well, Arkansas, drops a couple games, tough one. But I think we found out some things about some of these individual characters, and we're going to talk about them here in a minute. Again, I didn't think there was a way in which Arkansas was going to get through this 10-series SEC schedule without dropping a few games and without probably dropping a series. And so I'm not trying to do the moral victory. This is a good thing that Arkansas lost the series, but I got to say, this is really about as acceptable of a series loss as you can have. I mean, realistically. And look, you guys may feel very differently, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that do. And I'm not going to be one of those guys that comes in here and tries to gaslight you and be like, you shouldn't be upset, you shouldn't be mad. And I also don't want to come across like, hey, I know more than you, and I'm not upset, so you shouldn't be upset. I'm not doing any of that either. We all interpret these things the way we feel, and hell, we watch the games. We all have our opinions on specific pieces. Some of the things I say about these individuals coming up, you might not agree with that necessarily either. But me personally, like, I just didn't come away from this weekend and see like anything that would give me concern moving forward in terms of the big picture about this team. If there was anything, honestly, guys, and I'll go ahead and do this bit now. The Gabe Gackle thing is the kind of overarching kind of dark cloud that I've been a guy that, first ever guest of the Baumbastic Podcast. So you guys know I love Gabe Gackle, and I'm a huge believer in his skill set, and that remains true. But at some point, you got to start pitching better. And I've long been a proponent of keep giving him chances, keep letting him start, let him kind of work through this, because ultimately he's going to have to figure out how to start games in the SEC. And I still kind of feel that way a little bit. But look, the time has kind of run out, because I've been saying that for about a month, thinking in the back of my mind, well, Gage Wood's probably not going to be able to get ramped up for a few weeks here. And I still think, with Gage Wood, it's not like next week, if he makes his return, he's going to come out there and throw 5 or 6 innings. It's still going to be a build. But given what happened this weekend, and you combine it with the rest of the season and kind of how this thing has trended, I feel like Gabe Gackle has had ample opportunity to solidify his spot in this starting rotation, and he simply has not done that. And that's not to say that Landon Beidelshees has been like a world beater out there or anything like that. But I think of the 3 guys, I mean, Gackle is kind of the one that sticks out there from a stat standpoint, from a coach trust standpoint, from a leash standpoint. And so I think if you're going to make a move, and Dave Van Horn actually alluded to this earlier today, it seems like Gackle might be the guy. And I think when you bring Gage Wood back, again, you're not going to bring him back and ramp him up his workload. But I think, based on everything we've heard and everything we've seen, I actually think if Gage Wood is available for the A&M series next weekend, I think you will see him start the game on the mound. Now, he will only go 1, maybe 2 innings at the most, at least based on what Dave Van Horn's been saying. But I think now, Gackle has not solidified that spot. Arkansas is going to have to make a move. And I mean, you look at the series as a whole. I thought Zach Root, of course, we talked about his outing the other day, battled really well. We'll touch on Landon Beidelshees in a minute. I didn't think he was great, but I also didn't think he was bad. Kind of battled for Arkansas, 8 up, 5 innings. Your bullpen, I got to say, Arkansas's bullpen in this series, about as good as you could realistically ask out of, given the situation on the road, being down 2 arms, by the way, still being down Parker Coyle and being down Gage Wood. I was actually really impressed with several different guys that came in and gave Arkansas some good innings out of the bullpen. Of course, you have Cole Gibbler give up the walk-off bomb here today, and so I'm sure some people will be upset about that. But I was really happy to see Cole Gibbler get those chances. He got an inning yesterday, struck out the side, did give up, I think, 1 base hit there. Got an inning today, what ended up being an inning, came into a big situation. I was pleased with him, and it was just good to see him go out there and play and get these reps in these crunch time moments. He's another one of those guys. You kind of learn a little bit about him. I thought Cole Gibbler was game, man. He ends up giving up a 3-1 home run. Really the only mistake he made all weekend. And you live and learn, man. You live and learn from these experiences, and I do think he will. But again, I think you look at the big picture of this weekend, there's probably some disappointment on the offensive side, because I felt like Arkansas, and we'll touch on it here in a second, didn't do enough against some specific Georgia pitchers. But credit to the Bulldogs, man. Credit to Wes Johnson, had those guys ready, and they got outs when they needed to get outs at the end of the day, and that's really what you do here. But big picture, again, I'm not worried about the offense. I'm not worried about the bullpen by any means. I thought a lot of these guys looked awesome. Not really worried about Root. Not really worried about Beidelshees. I am worried about that number 2 spot, and I think it's just kind of been long enough. So that's kind of the one thing coming out of this weekend that if we were going to say, hey, is there anything that gives you that big picture concern, it would be that Gackle spot. But again, you have the reinforcements coming here in Wood, and so we'll see what that means for Gackle and him moving forward. But I did want to touch on that again, just because I didn't get to do a video yesterday. So now let's pull up this box score and take a look at this for a second here, and we'll just go top to bottom here. So Charles Davalon, not the best weekend at the dish for Charles Davalon. I mean, we've seen him be much more dynamic. We've seen how he can pretty much carry this offense at times. Still gets on base 3 times today, had an opposite field double, also worked a couple walks in there. So good to see from Charles Davalon, even on his worst days, still finding a way to be effective. Vahiva Aloy had like a up and down weekend that featured just like 5 or 6 massive swings. I mean, he had the 2 huge swings on Friday with the home run and the double. I believe he had I think he had a huge swing. Maybe that was Cahillo Aloy that had the big swing yesterday. It was Cahillo. But then Vahiva Aloy today had a couple, I think he struck out 3 times, but then he also had a huge infield single that wound up plating an unearned run later in this game. Also had the massive home run with Arkansas down to their final out in the top of the 9th inning. Vahiva Aloy just kind of continues to show you how dynamic he can be. And it wasn't necessarily his best weekend at the office either. But over the course of the weekend, you face that guy 3 times. It's really hard to go around that without getting got. Logan Maxwell, rare tough day at the dish for him. Goes over 4 with the strikeout. Also got pulled as a defensive replacement in this game when Arkansas had a lead. Wound up getting a Justin Thomas Jr. At bat. Justin Thomas, by the way, you see, came in there as a defensive replacement and got the pinch hit. AB. Kendall Diggs gets to start in left field for Arkansas. And there was a lot of controversy around this. Frankly, like when I saw it, it really didn't. Like it didn't mean too much to me. I was like, okay, we haven't seen Kendall get an SEC start in a while against a right-handed pitcher. Kind of makes sense, but people were very upset about that. Good to see Carson Bowles come in and worked a walk, and I believe he also reached via error, provided a run for Arkansas, and he's going to continue to get his opportunities, get his ABs. I think Arkansas is going to need all these guys at different points, whether that's Thomas, Maxwell, of course Maxwell because he's been awesome, Diggs and Carson Bowles as well. So honestly, it really didn't bother me too much the way that they dispersed the outfield work. I thought it was fine, but I know a lot of people were very upset about that for whatever reason. Kahio Aloy, who has been awesome this series, was not awesome today. Goes over 5 with 3 strikeouts. Again, just kind of the boomer bust you live with a guy like that. But with him being in the cleanup spot today, really would have liked to get a little bit of a punch out of him. Same with Iredale, who goes over 5 with 2 strikeouts in this game. I had somebody tweet at me today, and they were like, Andrew, you got to apologize to Daniel Shee for dismissing his Iredale take. That guy stinks. And he was mostly in jest. And hey, fair enough, man. We'll give Danny Shee his props, even though I absolutely hate doing that here on this show. But of course, Iredale's another guy that, like, every time one of these guys goes through a little bit of a slump, we always do the thing where we're like, what's wrong with Vahiva? What's wrong with Kahio? What's wrong with Brent Iredale? What's wrong with Davalon? We always do that. In reality, like I've said literally all along, if you go back to even preseason, we talked about this. These guys are going to be a little bit boomer bust. You'd rather them, sure, I'd love to have them go 3 for 4 with a double and a home run every game, but you're not ever always going to have all guys firing on all cylinders. More often than not, Arkansas has gotten enough from other guys. And we saw a little bit of that this weekend with other guys kind of stepping up without some of the top bats. Cam Kojal, by the way, another guy you could kind of throw in this category, did have a nice RBI single to center field, was damn near robbed of a base hit in that first inning, got Arkansas on the board early, but he ends up going 1 for 6 in this game, struck out a couple times. Again, not like overly concerned with any of those particular pieces, but when you add it all together in a game that ends up going 12 innings and you end up with 6 runs against a pitching staff that frankly was running on fumes, I'm more than okay with you guys being a little bit upset about the offensive performance, but we talked about it in depth here. We feel pretty good about this team's ability to score some runs. Gabe Frazier goes 1 for 5 in this game. I want to save my Gabe Frazier rant for tomorrow because I'm just spoiler. He's going to be a winner of the weekend, like undoubtedly. He's going to be a winner. We knew Gabe Frazier was a talented baseball player. We've seen him get some opportunities off the bench for Arkansas this year. He was actually talking to the Hogs Plus, and he was like, hey, I've kind of settled into my role, just understand my role of being a bench guy, and I'm all for it. Well, he's going to be a little bit more of the bench guy now with Nolan Souza appearing to be out for long term. I'll tell you what I learned about Gabe Frazier this weekend. Dude's a gamer. I mean, we know he's talented, good left-handed bat, can play short, can play second. Like, I knew about the skill set. We've seen what he can do. He had some nice moments in the fall scrimmages in the spring. Hell, he had that cool home run a couple of weeks ago in a midweek. Like, we know this guy has upside. He was a very talented recruit. We know what he brings to the table as a player. I did not realize what he brings to the table as a competitor. I was not really woke to that. Big time stuff from Gabe Frazier. Good to see him again, living and learning in these SEC moments, in these SEC battles against top teams. Like, if you can play well in this series, which Gabe Frazier undoubtedly did, I mean, you can play ball at any level, man. Like, you can really be a dude in this league. And so really good to see him get that opportunity and be ready when his number was called. Could not be more proud about Gabe Frazier and just the fight that he showed this weekend. Dude's got some moxie to him, man. It was fun to watch. Ryder Helfrich, another guy who, again, he was a winner of the weekend last weekend after having a really good offensive series against Missouri, got his batting average up over 300, which is now up to 320. And one thing I said last week is, man, he's doing all this damage and he's not even hitting home runs. And we know Ryder Helfrich can hit some home runs. Had 3 of them this weekend, 2 today, 1 yesterday. All solo home runs, I'm pretty sure, which is, kind of tough, but hit it all to left field. Really, you're starting to see that power come. He's now got 8 home runs on the year. 8 home runs is a respectable amount of home runs for a season from your catcher. Ryder Helfrich's had 3 this week, and he's got 8 on the year now. Going to be a little bit more in the tank there. Really a talented piece for Arkansas that, by the way, like, I think he's doing a great job defensively as well. Georgia likes to run a little bit, and they stole some bases here and there. Robbie Burnett stole third, which was basically on Landon Beidelshees, if I remember correctly. So that's a little bit of a tough break, but it's not like Ryder Helfrich's a guy that SEC teams are just picking on and running all over the place on the base paths. Does a good job controlling the run game, does a good job calling pitches back there, all while hitting 320, and he's now starting to put that power together. Ryder Helfrich, man, that stock is starting to really grow here. Let's move on down to the pitching side again. Landon Beidelshees, 5 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, walks 1, strikes out 6. This stat line is kind of like been what his SEC play run has been in a nutshell, where he kind of is good about eating innings, and, has some moments. He had 7 strikeouts last week, had 6 strikeouts this week, like has some good stuff, has some strikeout stuff, but it's just never really dominant. Ultimately, like from your Sunday guy, like that's about what you would take, especially against one of the better offenses in the country. Ended up giving up 2 big flies in this game, and that really hurt him. There were, I believe, 3 separate instances in this baseball game where Arkansas hit a batter, and then he later came around to score on a double. It happened 3 separate times, and that's how Georgia got their first run. He was 5 up, 5 down, Beidelshees was, going into that second inning, ends up hitting the guy with 2 outs, double. That's their first run, and then you have a home run right behind it, 2-run home run. So you go from 5 up, 5 down to down 3-1 in a heartbeat. Ended up giving up a solo home run in the third. I thought it was really important. Again, similar to Zach Root on Friday, he gave up some runs early, but he kept battling, ended up still getting Arkansas deep into the game, giving them a chance to win. I think that's what Landon Beidelshees did today. I don't think he was great. Would love to see him really put together a complete start where he goes 6 or 7 innings and doesn't, allow that little early hiccup here and there. Because a lot of times with his outings, we're going, well, outside of the 3 runs he gave up in that inning, he's good, and so I'd love to one day just have it all come together and him be good. And I have no doubt, like, he's fully capable of that. He's done it in his career before. I still view Landon Beidelshees as a guy you can trust, particularly when you're comparing him to Gabe Gackel, who has not been that for Arkansas. Carson Wiggins ends up giving an unearned run. Again, similar situation where I believe actually his might have been a walk, and then he had a throwing error, Carson Wiggins did, trying to pick the guy off at first base, which is why that run was unearned. Ends up moving it up to second base. Then you have a ground ball, fly ball. All of a sudden that run gets home. So Carson Wiggins gives up a run. I thought he was awesome in this game, though, man. I thought his stuff was dynamite. He strikes out 4 in 2 innings. Again, the 1 run is a little bit tough. Hurt himself with the throwing error there. You got to clean that up. But big picture, man, I continue to be really impressed with Carson Wiggins and what he brings to the table. Touched 102 in this game today. So, like, he started the year throwing 97, 98. He's starting to just climb it on up there. This kid, the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say. Really intrigued to see him continue to, again, live and learn in these big moments in the SEC. He's getting better and better with each of these outings. You see him be more comfortable in these settings. I thought he was good today. Just, don't have an errant pickoff attempt. That's what I would say, Carson Wiggins. Dylan Carter, did anybody have a more effective weekend for what they were asked to do than Dylan Carter? Comes in, strikes out the side today. I believe it was Friday night came in. I don't remember if he struck out the side or if he struck out 2, but I'm pretty sure it was 6 up, 6 down in the 2 outings he had this weekend, and got a high leverage outing today. He's earned that, by the way. He's earned that high leverage outing because he's continuously taking the ball in these low leverage situations, just saying, I'm going to go out there and do my job. Good to see him get rewarded and come through in a huge moment, man. I mean, dude's got some giddy up to that fastball now. I mean, he's a legit mid-90s righty. And like we've said, like, Arkansas kind of needs some of those right-handed power arms to come through. I thought Wiggins and Carter were good in this game. I thought Aiden Jimenez was very good as well. He was another guy who fell victim to the hit a guy with 2 outs, wound up giving up a double, which allowed the tying run to come in. And I guess that was the 11th inning. And then Cole Gibbler comes in, gets a quick ground ball out, strikes out, I believe, the first 2 guys of the second inning that he came, or of the 12th inning, the second inning of work for Cole Gibbler, and then ends up giving up a 3-1 home run to the catcher. Disappointing. And, we talked about this a little bit, how Fouch and Ben Bybee on this same field 2 years ago kind of went through that trial by fire where, and I think it was Bybee that ended up giving up a walk-off home run to end the series against Georgia. That year it was a sweep. This year it's just a series loss, but kind of poetic there that Cole Gibbler suffers a similar fate. But I will say I came away, like I said, impressed with Cole Gibler, impressed with his ability to kind of show up in this moment and be ready for it. And, ends up giving up a fly ball home run and a little boom box of a park. Them's the breaks. And, it is what it is. But I think I came away from this like you always kind of are keeping your eye on your team when you're in these big moments. And I just continue to have confidence in this Razorback squad. They ultimately didn't get the job done in the end, but was proud of the fight, was proud of the kids, as Sam Pittman would say. But on a serious note, like I know some of you are going to disagree, and I feel free to do it. Like I'm not here to tell you like I'm the end all be all authority on this. I don't see anything from this Razorback team that makes me think they are not the best team in the country that can't win the whole damn thing. Like I still feel that way. You lose a tough series on the road. Sure, you would have preferred win that. But again, I think if these two teams ran it back in Baum next weekend, we'd feel pretty confident. If they met on a neutral field, I'd feel pretty confident. Credit to Georgia, man. Like seriously, this is a Georgia team that was coming off of a sweep against Texas last week, and then gets blown out on Friday night. That was gut check time for this Georgia team. They came out fighting, and they've got some big bats in that lineup, man. Arkansas actually did a pretty good job holding down some of them, like the Zaborowski kid. Really didn't do a ton in this series, but Georgia, like Arkansas, they've got dudes over there, man. They're never out of a game. I think Arkansas showed this weekend that they're never out of a game. Fell behind both of these last two games and battled back each time. Hell, fell behind in all three because they were down 3-0 on Friday night as well. You can never really feel comfortable facing either one of these offenses. We'll see if Arkansas faces Georgia again down the road, but whoever faces Georgia, man, you're going to have their hands full. And so I feel the same way about this Razorback team. So let me know how you guys feel. Again, I hope this episode maybe made you feel a little bit better. And I'm not trying to tell you guys you can't be upset about the series loss. Hell, like I said, I would have preferred they won. But I still feel very confident in this Razorback team. Looking forward to watching them play some home games this week. Get right back on the horse against A&M next weekend. Should be some fun crowds at Baum Stadium. Let's get behind this team, man. It's going to be a fun journey. There's going to be a lot of highly competitive series against some really good teams here down the stretch, and you won't want to miss them, man. So appreciate you guys for tapping in with the Baumbastic Podcast. This has been another brilliant edition. We'll be back tomorrow with some weekend winners. We'll talk more in depth about some of these individual performances. Have a great Sunday night, everybody.